Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the FCS Prep Podcast, where I am your host, Dr. Keith Fairclough. We are back again, and listen, hey, we've leveled up. We have leveled up. We got cameras to the left of me. We got cameras to the right of me. We got one in the front, and I don't have to use my phone anymore. Boy, God is good. Listen, leveling up, man. 2024, we're going to new places. We are going to new places. I guess it's going to amp us up a little bit. I know the last video was kind of tough. We were talking about why we shouldn't be having sex before marriage. If you hadn't seen it, I recommend you go back and watch it. It's not based off religion or anything like that. It's just based off of the facts that come along with the idea of when we are having sex outside of marriage and the consequences that can result in that, right? That come from that. So I know it's kind of inflammatory, but if you listen to it all the way to the end, you'll see the reason as to why it was just so passionate for me, because it's so much deeper than just, oh, he's just trying to be a killjoy, you know, he's just trying to be Mr. Holy Roller. It has nothing to do with that at all. Nothing to do with that at all. When I'm talking about these things, just before I preface this, right, because actually one of the first things in today's message, which today's message could be just as inflammatory, is about not living together before you're married. And I know a lot of people probably rub them the wrong way. There's people in my family, people, my friends, clients, there's all types of people that I know that are in this situation. So let me just go ahead and preface this. This is not a dig at anybody. This is not a dig at anybody. All right. This is not me judging you. This is not me trying to tear you down. This is not me doing anything like that. You got to remember the whole purpose of this series. The purpose of this series is to give ourselves the absolute best chance we have at a long-lasting, committed relationship. So in order to do that, I have to highlight the things that could jump in the way and mess up what we could potentially have as a long-lasting, loving, committed relationship. And a lot of these things may not necessarily be direct or, intentional offenses that come your way, right? Sometimes it's just, this is just how I'm living life. And boom, these things come up, and then we find ourselves, locked into all these different arrangements and agreements, and it's like, dang, but I don't even really want to be with this person. We're different. We've changed, or, they're not the person I thought they were, or they want long-term relationship. I just want to just hang out. Whatever the case may be, right? We're trying to avoid all of that. We're trying to avoid the hurt and the pain that comes from that. And just side note, I don't know, there's a lot of professions, especially the health professions. I'll say this. It's one of the few professions, and these are some of the few professions that exist where we are literally trying to work ourselves out of a job, right? We are literally trying to do that. Think about it. If people follow the things I'm talking about, they put these things into practice, right? And in addition to other skills and things like that, but they put these things into practice, then guess what? There are no more marital problems or relationship issues for the most part. Not really. Not enough to saturate the field with therapists and still have more people to help. I'm trying to work myself out of a job by helping people, by giving you guys this information so that you don't make the same mistakes, so that you can have a happy, loving, committed relationship, not 19 years later, not 20 years later or 30 years later, but you can have it in the very beginning, because it's like, I remember listening to that video, getting that information, doing this, doing that. And so because we did that in the beginning, because I did that before I even started looking for someone to date, prevented all these issues, all these potential problems that were going to come up. So that's what this is all about, guys. Listen, it's not about digging on anybody. It's not about tearing anybody apart. It's not about hurting no one's feelings. It's not about trying to offend anybody. It never has, never will. You'll never catch me in one of my videos anywhere, or someone else's videos. You're not going to catch me just out here just trying to destroy people's lives or ruin people's fun or anything like that. If I'm telling you something and it's rubbing you the wrong way, it's not because I don't like you. It's because I really want to help you. And maybe the way you're living your life may not be necessarily lining up with what your goals are, simply because you don't even have the information you need. So I'm trying to give you the information you need. And if you feel offended or anything like that, again, not my intention, but I gotta put this stuff out there because many of us have been in these situations, and it's like, dang, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish this on you get where I'm coming from. So, without further ado, I didn't give you the whole preface, the whole, just explanation in the beginning. Let's hop into it, guys. Why shouldn't we live together before we're married? Why is that a problem? Why am I such a stick in the mud, right? What's wrong, Keith? Isn't living together before you get married the same as getting married? Isn't marriage just a piece of paper? That's what the culture and society would love for you to believe. Whether you know it or not, the culture and society benefits from our dysfunction. They benefit from that. Talked about that in the last video as well. So they will lead you to believe that the institute of marriage is just a piece of paper. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. I can tell you right now, they are 110% wrong. I can't tell you exactly what happens when two people come together and say, I want to be together with you forever. I can't tell you what happens, but something is unlocked in both that man and that woman. It's like the roles of husband and wife are unlocked in that moment. There's something that happens. I'm telling you, marriage is not just a piece of paper. Don't let anybody tell you any different, ever. It is not just a piece of paper. It is a covenant before you, before your spouse, before the government, before your religious leader, before God. It's a covenant, and I'm telling you, there's something special about it. It's different. There's a reason they say sex in a healthy marriage is better than sex in a healthy relationship. You would think it's the same, right? Same mechanisms, same men, same women. You would think it's the same, but it's different. There's something different about a marriage. There's something different about the roles. So as a matter of fact, listen, I'm just going to jump. This is the first I'm going to jump into. I'm going to jump into because it's a good segue, right? When it comes to living together, right, there are going to be expectations that are unfulfillable. Let's say it one more time. There are going to be expectations that are unfulfillable. It is impossible to fulfill those expectations. Your girlfriend cannot expect you to operate as a husband, because you have not unlocked that. There has been no covenant. You are not a husband. You are a boyfriend. And as a boyfriend, it is not your responsibility to provide for the household. Just keep it a buck. It's not your responsibility. It's also not her responsibility to cook and clean for you or do anything like that or nurture you. That's not her responsibility. It is most certainly not her responsibility to give you her body whenever you feel like it. That is also not her responsibility. You can't expect these things from each other. To tell you the truth, outside of some basic decency, there really isn't much you can expect when it's tied to the role of husband and wife, because you're not a husband and you're not a wife. And some people say, well, it's like practicing. There is no practicing. Yes, are there skills? Are men leaders, providers, and protectors even outside of marriage? Yes. Are women nurturers and amplifiers outside of marriage? Yes. We do that in our families. We do that on our jobs. We do that in our communities. We operate in these roles in these places. And it's great practice, right? It's great having those skills and operate in those skills, because it helps us when we do get married and we do unlock that husband role or wife role. We do unlock it. Now we have a point of reference of how we've been using these skills, and they can be used to apply to the husband role and to the wife role. But we cannot practice being a husband or being a wife. The best we could do is watch a husband and a wife and how they operate and how they move. That's the best we can do as far as practicing is concerned. But that's not enough. I'm telling you, there is something about getting married. There's something about making that covenant that just changes that dynamic of everything. Something about it. I can't put my finger on it. Once again, I can't put my finger on it, but there is something about it. All right. So that's that part. So you're going to have unfillable expectations, and it's going to leave you frustrated. So there is no, the man's got to provide everything in the house. No, he doesn't owe you that. He doesn't owe you that protection. He doesn't owe you that provision. He doesn't owe you that leadership. He doesn't owe you anything. Honestly, just keep it a buck, and vice versa. She doesn't owe you anything at all. She doesn't owe you anything. So with that being said, guys, you cannot expect try to be a husband or be a wife if you guys haven't made that covenant. And there's no practicing. So you're going to have those unfulfillable expectations. And there's going to be a frustration tied to that. So that's one thing, right? I'm not going to beat a dead horse. And it leads to premarital sex. Let's just keep it a buck again. You know, and I know that if you are dating someone and you guys are living in the same house, you guys can say to your blue in the face, oh, we'll never have sex. You know, we're gonna wait, you know, and we're just gonna be able to live together, and we're just gonna save money. But stop. You know good and well, if you put someone in the same place as you that you like, and you have a relationship with, and it's private, and you guys are able to see each other with the bathing and all that stuff like that, and you're not going to sleep together and have sex, stop the cap. You know good and well. We all know good and well that is just not a possibility. If you're living with someone before you're married, you're going to have sex with them, plain and simple. That's just what it is. If you're in a relationship, I'm talking about roommates, we're talking about your relationship. But again, I'm not going to beat that dead horse because we already have a whole video talking about what happens when you have premarital sex and the consequences as a result. So the next thing is it decreases our chances of long-term commitment. If that's your goal, it decreases the chances. This is not just me saying it. There's studies that dictate this as well. But just let's think about it from a logical point of view. There's an old saying that says, why buy the cow when I can get the milk for free? Makes sense, right? Why should I commit? Why should I step into unlock this husband role if she's giving me sex and she's making me food and she's cleaning my clothes and she's taking care of my house and she's taking care of my kids? Like, why would I take that responsibility on when I don't got to? That don't make no sense. Because let me just give you guys a heads up. The role of a husband, there's a lot of responsibility with that. I'm gonna make a whole video about that. It might be a series of videos about that. Because I say leader, provider, protector as if it's just quick. I'm not just talking about making money, making sure they're safe physically and providing them with the things they need. I'm not just talking about that, right? I'm not talking about it. Is deep and it is a lot of responsibility. So if you can get all the benefits of a marriage, or quote unquote, you can get all the benefits, quote unquote, all the benefits, right? But at least the stuff that you find valuable, if you can get that without having to commit, say, hey, I have an out, I can leave because we're not married, you know, and that's what people are going to do. So why would you want to get married, right? Why would, if you're staying with someone for a long time, they're already giving you everything you want, need, and desire, she's taking care of you, why would you get married? That wouldn't make any sense, right? That's why you'll see those relationships, and this will actually feed into my next one. That's why it feeds those relationships that last 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and no marriage. You got kids, you might even have debt, no marriage. All right. Then also what happens? Then he up and leaves. And then now we're all up in arms and everyone's upset and all these things like that. That's what happens. You thought you were going to keep him, women specifically, this part's for women. You thought you were going to keep him because you were doing all these things. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. All right. So it's something to just keep that in mind. It's going to decrease your chances of getting married, a long-term commitment, because you're already giving the other person. And I'm sure for guys, you might be paying bills and all this stuff like that and try to do all these things. And she's like, okay, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm getting everything I need from that, you know, until I find something better. And then you're left heartbroken. But this is going to move on to my next point, right? The loss of time. Now, I'm going to speak specifically to the ladies for this one, because if you're in a relationship with someone that doesn't want to commit to you after 10 years, you've lost 10 years. So if you started out in your 20s and now you're in your 30s and you are now by yourself again, you have lost 10 years. And if you're trying to have kids, the clock is ticking, because now you got to try to find someone with the next 10 years, or unless it's a shorter period of time, you got to find somebody, and you got to find them quick. But you probably might have a lot of baggage because you've been with this guy, so there might be kids, there might be debt, there might be trauma, there might be all this stuff. So now you got all this baggage, you have a shorter period of time, and you have all this stuff with you. And so it kind of lowers your chances of getting a guy who doesn't want all that stuff. But here's the part that sucks. Because guess what? The guy gets to go on. And if he's in his 30s, he has his 30s, he has his 40s, he has his 50s, he has his 60s. Shoot, nowadays, the way health is going and all that, you can even be in your 70s. Look ripped, good, money, everything, and still be picking up chicks. Like, it's crazy. Specifically women, please understand this point, that if you get into a long-term relationship with someone who doesn't want to commit to you, you are spending valuable years that you will never get back. And the more baggage you rack up, the more difficult it's going to be for you if you're trying to find someone later on. Because you're going to say, I don't want a woman with kids, or I don't want someone with all that baggage, or I don't want her to have this, or want her to have da-da-da-da. So there's that loss in time. And then financial issues, right? Financial issues. A lot of times, you staying with someone for a long time, you might co-sign on something. Y'all might run up the credit cards together. Y'all might do all types of things, make the financial decision. Some couples buy houses before they get married. So now you're all tied up with all these things, and what happens if the relationship falls apart? What happens if he leaves or she leaves and you're kind of stuck holding the bag? What do you do then? Think about that. And there's no recourse for you. There's no legal system that's going to say, well, hey, you guys spent 10 years together, so he owes you something. He don't owe you nothing. You ain't finna get no alimony or nothing like that. Ain't no splitting of properties, nothing. There's no protection. Now, if you're married, there's protection, but there's no protection in a regular boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And you have to think about that. And then on top of that, I don't know if you ever watched Judge Judy or any of those court shows, and you have these women that are out here working, smart women, beautiful women, out here working, making all this money, and just giving it to this guy who has no job, who has no ambition, who's doing get-rich-quick schemes. And it's like, what are you doing? You don't get that money back. When he up and leaves and gets another female, and you're hurt, bitter, and angry, you don't get none of that money back. You just out. In a lot of court shows and a lot of those proceedings, it's like, you should have known better. Unfortunately, that's all they can say. You should have known better. So, in any case, guys, there could be financial issues tied up in living together, because as you live together, you're going to end up making financial decisions together. As you make financial decisions together, then you could be tied up in that same decision if they decide to leave, or if they decide to leave you holding the bag, right? So, next thing, the pressure to marry. There is a pressure, or there could be a societal, religious, or a cultural, or familial pressure for you to marry if you're living together with someone. Because they'll be like, oh, why are you guys living together? Y'all have a kid and y'all still ain't married? Oh gosh, why hasn't he given you a ring? What's going on? Why won't you propose? What do you do? And you're going to get all those questions and get all this pressure, and then you might just hop and get married when you're not ready to get married because you didn't do any of the stuff we talked about beforehand. And so now you hop into this marriage willy-nilly thinking that love is going to cure it all, and then guess what? Love doesn't cure it all. Now y'all got problems. Now y'all got issues. Now y'all got kids. Now y'all got all this stuff and all these issues and all this stuff because people pressured you to marry. Whereas if you stayed apart, it's not that immediate pressure. They may still talk about it and joke about it and say like that, but it's not like you're doing anything that's going to force you to be together and to be married, right? So it's that thing, to kind of avoid that kind of pressure. I'm going to go into the last thing, guys. Last thing. There are probably other reasons, but this last thing. It increases your chances of having children out of wedlock. Why is that a problem? Why is it a problem to have kids out of wedlock? One reason that stands out in my mind. I won't say one reason only. I was going to say one reason only, but it's not just one reason only. There's plenty of reasons. But the one that sticks out in my mind is that this child will not have a stable family. That's why. If anyone decides to leave, because it's a lot easier to leave a relationship than it is to divorce, right? But if anyone decides to leave, that kid now has an unstable foundation, because more often than not, as much as we'd love to say, oh, we can co-parent, most people don't co-parent well. Most people don't have the same rules across the board. Most people they don't have those conversations. Most people actually don't like each other. I don't like him, she doesn't, and I don't like her because she does this, and he's permissive and she's permissive and all this stuff. And now y'all ain't even on the same team. So the kid ain't got no stability. Now we're up the ante again. So not only is it an unstable environment, but y'all probably going to be dating too. So now he's bringing different women over, and she's bringing different men over, and all these things. And now you're increasing your child's exposure to strangers, which guess what that increases? Increases them being molested. Is that what you want for your children? Do we really want to put them in a situation where they can be sexually abused and assaulted? It can most certainly happen. Shoot, I've heard stories. This is crazy. I've heard stories of children who've been molested by a boyfriend. And instead of the mother saying, boy, I'm gonna kill you. You're done. I'm wiping you off the face of the earth. You done touched my child. It is game over. They're not gonna find your body. They're not gonna find your bones. Shoot, they might even find your name or your social security number. I might erase it all. Make sure you don't exist anymore, right? Instead of being and coming at the situation like that, they say, shh, that didn't really happen. Shh. That didn't happen. No, you're going to mess it up. He's going to leave us. He's taking care of us. No, don't say anything. No. Oh, it's okay. This stuff happens. It'll be okay. All right, it'll be okay. They literally cover for this guy. What? It's insane. It is insane. This is what happens, though, right? This is exactly what happens. And for anyone saying, I'm going to have to make a whole video about that because there's probably other people out there saying, well, this stuff can happen in a marriage too. Yes, but again, I can go into detail. I can go into detail about that because if you're doing the marriage the right way, no, it won't. If you start out this dating process the right way, no, it won't. Guys, listen. Men, women, you're thinking about dating, you're getting into this. I want you to keep this video in mind. These are the things. These are just some of the things that could take place if you're living with someone before you get married. Just some. This is a fraction. Now you can even talk about the mental health issues and all that stuff that kind of spawn from that. Like, there's so much that can come from living together. I'm not saying, let me also say this. It is possible because there have been people who've lived together and they got married and they have lived happily ever after. There most certainly has been people like that. There's people who've had sex outside of marriage and worked it all out and then moved into marriage and everything was fine. Of course there's stories like that. There are also stories of people who took drugs one time and didn't get addicted. So should we just say, hey, everyone take drugs now because there was that one story when someone took it and didn't get addicted? That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? It sounds ridiculous to me even saying it. But that's kind of what people would put that category in and say, oh, well, there's people who lived together and got married before they got married. There's people that had sex. It's like, yeah, of course. Duh. Yes. There are plenty of people. Shoot. Matter of fact, I was one of those people. I was sleeping around before I got married. I wasn't living together, but I was sleeping with my girlfriend, wife at the time. And we got married and everything turned out great. Perfect, right? That's not the template. That wasn't right. There was so much that needed to be worked out. So many issues that came up because I was doing stuff like that beforehand. Instead of working on myself, I'm out here trying to, catch a feel or whatever, and then instead of being the man I needed to be for my wife and taking that time beforehand to become a better man for my wife, I was a little boy who got married and couldn't give my wife what she needed in that time. And because of that, she suffered. And she suffered for years. And I'm trying to reach you guys right now so your wife doesn't suffer. Your husband doesn't suffer. Your family doesn't suffer. You don't suffer. That's why I'm sharing this message. I don't want you all to suffer. I do not want that. We've already had plenty of people suffer. We don't need any more. So guys, I love you so much. I know these been a couple of tough videos. I understand that, but no, I'm doing this in love. I want the best for you. I don't want you guys to hurt. I don't want you to have mental health issues. I don't want you to have relationship issues. I want you guys to experience unconditional love. I want y'all to be able to operate in personal responsibility and with excellence. I want y'all to have the best life possible. I want y'all to experience real change right now. So please don't be offended by what I'm saying in these videos. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm not trying to tear anybody down. I'm trying to build this all up. And if you're in this situation, at least consider it and consider what I'm saying. Just think about it. Think about what could happen. think about it not just for your relationship, but think about it for yourself too. I love you very much. Like I said, I got to get going. If y'all need anything, please, hit me up on one of the links below. You can schedule an appointment. You can shoot me an email. Whatever you need to do to reach me. Listen, I'm everywhere. You can just Google me, whatever. Again, loving these cameras. It's freaking awesome. We're moving on up 2024. I love you guys. And I'll see you all soon.